A few days ago, I picked up my phone and called what I thought was a customer support representative. I asked a few questions about my account, interrupted halfway through the conversation, changed the topic completely, and even threw in a couple of unexpected requests just to see how it would react. Everything felt normal. The responses came almost instantly. It understood what I meant, even when I didn't explain myself very well. It answered naturally, remembered what we had already talked about, and even handled my interruptions without missing a beat. There was only one problem. There wasn't a human on the other end of the line. It was an AI. And honestly, if nobody had told me, I probably wouldn't have noticed. What's even crazier is that this isn't some experimental technology hidden inside a research lab. Some of the biggest companies in America are already using AI phone agents to handle thousands, sometimes millions, of customer conversations every single month. So that got me wondering, if companies worth billions of dollars are trusting AI with one of the most important parts of their business, which platform is actually behind these conversations? And more importantly, can an ordinary business build the same kind of AI phone agent without spending hundreds of thousands of dollars? Today, we're going to find out. If you're ready to make AI your superpower, welcome. Every video gives you new tools, new tricks, and simple shortcuts to level up your workflow instantly. No fluff, no geek talk, just practical power you can use today. When people think about AI, they usually think about chatbots, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. But that's quickly changing. The next major wave of AI isn't happening inside a chat window. It's happening over the phone. Think about how many businesses still rely on phone calls every single day. Customer support, appointment booking, sales inquiries, insurance claims, order updates, technical support. Now imagine receiving hundreds or even thousands of calls every day. Hiring enough people to answer every call is incredibly expensive. Missing those calls is even more expensive. Every unanswered phone call could mean a lost customer, a cancelled appointment, or a missed sale. That's exactly why companies are investing so heavily in AI voice agents. Not to replace every human conversation, but to handle repetitive requests instantly, 24 hours a day, without putting customers on hold. And the companies building these systems have quietly become some of the most valuable startups in AI. Today, I want to compare 3 of the biggest names in this space. Not based on marketing pages, not based on investor presentations, but based on what it's actually like to interact with them. Because at the end of the day, nobody cares how advanced an AI is if talking to it still feels robotic. The only thing that matters is whether it feels like you're talking to a real person, and that's exactly what we're going to test. If you start researching AI phone agents, you'll quickly notice that the same 3 names keep coming up: Sierra, Decagon, and Retell AI. Each one approaches the problem a little differently, but all 3 have become major players in enterprise voice AI. Let's start with Sierra. Founded by Brett Taylor, the former co-CEO of Salesforce, Sierra has become one of the most talked about AI startups in the world. Companies like Sonos, SiriusXM, ADT, Casper, and Weight Watchers use Sierra to help automate customer conversations across multiple channels. Then there's Decagon, another rapidly growing AI company that's powering customer support for brands like Notion, Duolingo, Aura, and Chime. Their focus is creating AI agents that can understand complex customer requests while keeping conversations natural and helpful. And finally, there's Retell AI. Unlike many people think, Retell isn't trying to be just another chatbot. It's a voice-first AI platform designed specifically for building phone agents that can answer calls, book appointments, qualify leads, provide customer support, and even complete real actions during conversations. What's interesting is that Retell is already trusted by Lenovo, Motorola, Grab, Sunrun, Plymouth Rock, and more than 1,000 other businesses. So even though these platforms all compete in the same space, they're solving the same problem from slightly different angles. But here's something I discovered almost immediately. My original plan for this video was simple. Sign up for all 3 platforms, build the exact same AI phone agent, then compare them side by side. Sounds easy, right? Well, not exactly. When I tried getting access to Sierra, there wasn't a simple Start Free button, no instant sign-up, no public sandbox where I could immediately build an agent. The same thing happened with Decagon. Instead of jumping in and testing the platform myself, the process starts with contacting sales, scheduling demos, and discussing enterprise requirements. And honestly, that makes sense. These platforms primarily work with very large organizations running thousands or even millions of customer conversations every year. They're designed for enterprise deployments, not necessarily for someone who wants to experiment over the weekend. So instead of comparing dashboards that most people can't even access, I decided to compare something everyone actually cares about, the experience. Because regardless of how sophisticated the technology is behind the scenes, the customer only notices one thing. What does the phone call actually feel like? Can the AI understand you? Does it respond naturally? Can it complete real tasks? And if something becomes too complicated, can it smoothly hand the conversation over to a human? Those are the questions that actually matter. So that's exactly what we're going to test. Before making any calls, I wanted to define what separates a good AI phone agent from a great one. First, natural conversation. Does it sound like someone reading a script? Or does it actually speak the way a real person would? Second, response speed. Nobody enjoys awkward silence during a phone call. The faster the AI understands what you're saying and responds naturally, the more believable the conversation feels. Third, can it handle interruptions? Real conversations aren't perfectly organized. People change their minds. They interrupt. They ask follow-up questions before the previous answer is finished. A good AI agent should adapt without getting confused. Next, can it actually solve the problem? Answering questions is one thing. Completing actions like booking appointments, checking information, updating records, or transferring you to the right person is where these systems become genuinely useful. And finally, what happens when the AI reaches its limits? Sometimes the best customer experience isn't pretending to know everything. It's recognizing when a human should take over and making that transition feel seamless instead of frustrating. With those criteria in mind, it's finally time to start making some calls. And honestly, some of the results surprised me. Now for the interesting part, instead of looking at product pages or marketing claims, I wanted to experience these AI agents the same way an actual customer would. So I called real businesses already using these platforms in production. The goal wasn't to trick the AI or create impossible scenarios. I simply wanted to see how natural the experience felt. I started with a simple request, a basic account-related question that any customer support team deals with every single day.
Hello. Thank you for calling Acme Cloud Customer Support. My name is Alex. How can I help you today?
Hi, I need help checking my account information.
The AI greeted me almost immediately. It asked the right follow-up questions, understood what I was trying to do, and kept the conversation moving naturally.
Okay, got it. It sounds like you need help with your account information. Are you trying to review your profile details, check your login, access, or look at billing info for your account?
What impressed me wasn't just the answers, it was the pacing. There weren't long, awkward pauses after every sentence. The conversation flowed almost like talking to a real support representative. Then I deliberately interrupted it.
Wait, I have another question.
Halfway through an answer, I changed my question completely. Instead of continuing its original response, the AI immediately adapted to the new conversation. That's something older voice assistants struggled with for years. Next, I asked something slightly more complicated.
Yes, I want to upgrade my current plan.
Not a question with a scripted answer, but something that required understanding context from earlier in the conversation. Again, the AI handled it surprisingly well. It remembered what we had already discussed and responded appropriately without making me repeat myself. Overall, the experience felt polished, not perfect, but definitely much closer to talking with a real person than I expected. I repeated the same process with another enterprise AI agent from a different platform. Once again, the quality was impressive. The conversation felt natural, responses were quick, and it handled interruptions better than most AI assistants we've seen over the past few years. At this point, one thing became very clear. Enterprise voice AI has improved dramatically. If you called one of these businesses today, there's a good chance you wouldn't immediately realize you're talking to an AI. Simple questions are easy. The real test is what happens when a customer has an actual problem. So I created a more challenging scenario. Instead of asking for information, I acted like a frustrated customer.
Hello, thank you for calling Acme Cloud Customer Support. My name is Alex. How can I help you today?
Hi, I need help because I'm having problem with my Acme Cloud account.
I changed details throughout the conversation.
I can access my account and I think there is also a problem with my billing.
I interrupted repeatedly.
Wait. I also want to change my subscription plan.
I added extra questions before the AI could finish answering.
Can you fix the account access and remove the change for me?
This is where many voice assistants begin falling apart. But these enterprise systems were surprisingly resilient. Rather than restarting the conversation every time I interrupted, they adjusted naturally and continued helping me.
Yeah, I already explained everything. Do I need to repeat it again?
Eventually, I pushed the conversation beyond what the AI could reasonably solve on its own. Instead of pretending it knew the answer, it acknowledged the limitation and prepared to transfer me to a human representative.
My apologies for the trouble with your account. I don't have direct access to your admin settings, but I can help.
And honestly, that's exactly what you want. A great AI agent shouldn't try to do everything. It should know when a human needs to step in. That smooth transition is one of the biggest differences between a simple chatbot and a production-ready AI phone agent. So after testing platforms already serving large enterprises, the obvious question became, could I build something that feels just as natural myself? That's where Retell AI comes in. One thing I really liked about Retell is that it doesn't expect you to spend weeks configuring everything before you can make your first phone call. Instead, the setup is surprisingly straightforward. Retell recently introduced something called Conductor, which can generate an entire voice agent from a simple description. So rather than manually building every conversation path, I simply described the type of assistant I wanted. For this demo, I created a customer support agent that could answer common questions, help customers find information, and hand the conversation over to a human whenever necessary. Within moments, the basic agent was ready. From there, I connected a knowledge source so it could answer questions based on real business information. Then I added an action that lets the agent perform real tasks instead of only talking. That could be checking an order, booking an appointment, looking up customer information, or triggering another workflow depending on your business. Finally, I connected a real phone number. At that point, the AI wasn't just a demo anymore. It was ready to receive actual phone calls. Now came the part I was most curious about. How would it compare against the enterprise systems I had just tested? With everything set up, it was finally time to make the call. I used the exact same testing approach as before. I started with a simple customer support question. The AI answered immediately, greeted me naturally, and guided the conversation just like a trained support representative would. Then I interrupted it before it could finish. Instead of getting confused or restarting its response, it adapted instantly and answered my new question without losing context. Next, I asked a follow-up question that depended on something I'd mentioned earlier in the conversation. Again, it remembered the previous context without asking me to repeat myself. That's something you don't always notice until it's missing. Retell handled it smoothly. Rather than sounding like it was reading a script, the conversation felt flexible. It responded based on what I said instead of forcing me through a rigid decision tree. Finally, I pushed the conversation beyond what the AI was supposed to handle. Instead of trying to guess or giving me incorrect information, it prepared a smooth handoff to a human representative while keeping the context of our conversation intact. That's exactly what you'd expect from a production-ready AI assistant, because the goal isn't to replace every employee, it's to handle the repetitive conversations automatically while making sure customers still receive great support when a person is needed. After testing enterprise AI agents and then building one myself on Retell, I came away with a pretty clear conclusion. Sierra and Decagon are incredibly impressive platforms. It's easy to see why some of the world's biggest companies trust them with customer support. They've proven themselves at massive scale and offer deep enterprise integrations for organizations managing huge volumes of customer interactions. But there's also a reality that most businesses will run into. For many teams, those platforms aren't something you can simply sign up for and start experimenting with today. They're built around enterprise sales processes, custom deployments, and long implementation cycles. Retell takes a different approach. It delivers the kind of natural voice experience you'd expect from an enterprise platform, while still allowing businesses to build, test, and deploy their own AI phone agents without waiting through a lengthy sales process. And that's probably what impressed me the most. Instead of watching someone else demonstrate the technology, I was able to build an agent myself, connect it to a real phone number, and start making calls within a relatively short amount of time. That combination of accessibility and enterprise-grade capability is what makes Retell stand out. Whether you're running customer support, qualifying inbound leads, booking appointments, or simply making sure your business never misses an important phone call, the platform gives you the flexibility to build an AI agent around your own workflow rather than forcing you into a predefined system. Voice AI has reached a point where it's no longer a glimpse of the future. It's already here. Millions of customer conversations are happening every day with AI on the other end of the line, and in many cases, people don't even realize it. What's changing isn't whether businesses will adopt AI voice agents, it's how quickly they'll do it. Retell makes that transition surprisingly approachable. You don't have to build an entire call center from scratch or spend months implementing a complex enterprise solution. You can create an AI voice agent, customize it for your business, and start seeing how it performs with real conversations. If you'd like to try Retell for yourself, you'll find my link in the description. The first 100 people who sign up through that link will receive $30 in free credits, making it a great way to explore the platform and build your first AI phone agent. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.